Hello, you guys. I got some new videos for you guys. You guys have to check it out. And really, Michael Jackson in this video talks about how so many of our black entertainers have been taken advantage of by the white people at the top in the industry. And they were also using black people to do their bidding as well. So that's what this whole thing is about. It's about people at the top of the industry, using black people to rip off other black artists, for them to be using black people and ripping them off. And this is about money. They are stealing black people's money and they are giving them effed up contracts and they are taking advantage of them. And that's one thing that Clyde Davis did a lot. He was more so like a person that just took advantage of people with their contracts with money, 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 very money hungry, very greed. So that's what this is all about. So I want you guys to watch this video. It talks about Oprah and how people feel like Oprah is definitely a puppet for the white people at the top to, get black people in horrible deals and then not give them money. Ice Cube is also calling it out as well and letting us know why people were afraid of Michael. Why people feared Michael. Why Diddy and Oprah feared Michael. So let's hear what Ice Cube or what they got to say about this. I cannot say everything in this video is 100% because I don't know, but let's look and check this out. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here. I just want to say thank you all for your likes and your comments.
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
We're listening to Mike right now. Obviously, this is a really sad time right now, but we're celebrating his life. Your thoughts right now on the situation and the timing of this tragedy?
Yeah, he's just somebody that changed my life. You know what I'm saying? Somebody I'll always love and cherish. They have to make the changes for us. They're a non-profit organization that is supposed to protect the welfare of the musical community. That's what it says on the mission statement. That's the truth. They work for us. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
I don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know who may be listening. There may be a group of people that want to get rid of me. They don't want me here anymore.
I want to hear Elvis and John Lennon and none of them motherfuckers. Jackson is the king of this shit.
When somebody like Jim Carrey says Hollywood is spineless, he's not talking about one slap at an award show. He's talking about a room full of people who know exactly what goes on behind the scenes and clap anyway. They all stood and clapped. Some of them even cried on TV when Michael Jackson died. And yet, years later, people are starting to wonder, was this really love or fear of what he knew? Michael didn't just dance and sing. He named names, called record executives devilish, told the world that black artists were being chewed up and discarded by the very system that claimed to love them. Now, whether you believe that call or not, this is the part almost nobody wants to think about. If Michael was right about the people running the industry, what happens to the careers of the ones who built their empires inside that same system? Ice Cube still calls him the king. But listen to what Cube says when he talks about the club, and suddenly the question isn't, was Michael Jackson afraid of Hollywood? It's, why were Oprah and Diddy afraid of Michael Jackson? And what did Ice Cube see that made him walk away from their world completely? Every time the conversation turns to who really controls the industry, the same names surface. Very few artists have stayed this consistent, this loud, and this unbothered by the consequences of telling the truth. What makes Cube different is how he was saying all of this long before it was safe or trending. The moment he described how the club actually works, certain doors quietly closed on him. And sit with that for a second. He's not whining about some bad reviews or Twitter mobs. This is something much more structural. He means a coordinated circle, where being in means you stay quiet, and being out means you pay for having a spine. Now, here's what nobody is connected. Michael Jackson described the same machine, almost word for word. But before we get to Michael, though, listen to how Diddy himself once talked about this kind of power.
They have to make the changes for us. They're a non-profit organization that is supposed to protect the welfare of the musical community. That's what it says on the mission statement. That's the truth. They work for us. We have the power. We decide what's hot. If we don't go, nobody goes. If we don't support, nobody supports. We control what's cool. We control what's hot. We control what your kids listen to, what they dance to. We control what's in video games. We control how they wear their pants, sag their pants. We control everything.
That's not an artist talking about his craft. That's someone describing an entire system of influence, which is exactly the question Cube refuses to let go of. Who gets to stay anonymous while pulling those strings? Because according to Ice Cube, the entertainment machine and the system that profits from destroying people are not separate things. He's not guessing. He's been inside this long enough to see how the gears actually turn.
Who benefits and profits off our bickering and our division? Who like follow the money? I don't know their names, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see, okay, this is an industry. Okay, let's take rap music.
Let's take it.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons. So
Literally the same people?
literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. So, it seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that, the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
They didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't. Certain flavors are exposed on the record. Some records are made by committee. Meaning record company guys sit around and tell the artists, this is hot, say that, do this. We're going to have this guy write the lyrics. We're going to have that. So the narrative is really kind of, structured and really made into what the record company want the record to be, and what a lot of artists are frustrated with this kind of music making. A lot of people, feel like they're being controlled by the label. This is how they do it. Telling you what songs to sing, what hooks to do, what songs, you can do your song. That's fine. That's an album cut. But the single is what we all say is the single. So you have, the record company pushing the narrative, so this to me is in somewhat, some social engineering going on here to make sure those prisons stay full.
Don't let that slide past you. That framing matters for everything that comes next. Because here's the thing. Michael wasn't just a victim of that system. He was the system's biggest asset, right up until the moment he refused to stay quiet. And that shift from asset to threat is where the story gets dark, and where the fear that Oprah and Diddy allegedly carried starts to make a lot more sense. Michael waited until he'd given the world everything musically before he started pointing at who was really pulling the strings. That wasn't some washed-up star lashing out because the spotlight moved on. He was the most famous entertainer alive, looking straight at the industry that made billions off his back and saying, "This is wrong. I know exactly what you're doing, and it has to stop."
Throughout the years, Black artists have been taken advantage of. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stop touring, they would totally go broke. And the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the Black artists. Yes, and Tommy Mottola of the Red Division. He's a meme, he's a racist, and he's very devilish. So I need your support, not just for me. When you're fighting for me, you're fighting for all Black people.
You don't say things like that if you still care about being invited back to the table. The second you label the boss of bosses devilish and accuse his whole system of feeding on Black artists, you've drawn a line in permanent ink. You don't brand a top executive artist and say the whole company preys on its own talent unless you're ready for whatever comes next. The uncomfortable truth is, Michael's description of the industry has aged a lot better than the industry's description of Michael. Because right when he started challenging that system, the narrative around him shifted. People remember the rumors, not the receipts. What almost nobody revisits is how Michael described the experience in his own words. What gets buried is his side of what that investigation actually felt like.
There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. As I have maintained from the very beginning, I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected. I shall not in this statement respond to all of the false allegations being made against me, since my lawyers have advised me that this is not the proper forum in which to do that. I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, as I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse the examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer. And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it.
Pay attention to the way he lays out each step. Nothing about that sounds like someone being shielded. It sounds like someone being made an example of. Once that sinks in, a question appears. Whose power depends on Michael Jackson not being believed? To this day, You can watch people use Michael's name as a shortcut for outrage without ever digging into the facts. Just look at how some voices will slap the harshest word on him, then pivot back to their personal brand conflicts with Sony or cancel culture.
You can imagine now my understanding of the facts surrounding the MJ case, that he went to war with Sony, one of these major companies, and he was winning that war. And then suddenly the world was told that Michael Jackson is somebody is an anti-Semite. Michael Jackson, I think, was called all of those things. Wacko Jacko. They gave him a name.
How do you feel when they call you Wacko Jacko? It's not nice. I'm not a wacko.
The exact same tactics that they tried to use on me. Someone pressed a button and there was a full court press effort to cancel Candace Owens by trying to convince the people that she just went crazy and anti-Semitic. Thank goodness I'm not from Hollywood. It would have institutionalized me and said that it was for my good. There are a ton of people in Hollywood who, when they have tried to speak out about things that are happening to them, have received this same treatment. I believe this is what happened to Britney Spears.
That's the part nobody slows down to notice. Even in her rant, the villain she's really complaining about is the industry, the same enemy Michael named years earlier. So ask yourself, if that machine felt threatened by him back then, what does that say about the people whose careers are built inside it? To really understand why certain powerful people might have been uneasy with Michael, you have to look at how the narrative against him was constructed from the start. It's not just about the accusations themselves. It's about who gained power from him being branded a villain.
In 1993, the very first allegation came against him, made from a screenwriter in the industry. He was both a screenwriter and a dentist, named Dr. Evan Chandler. It was based in Los Angeles, and his accusation was that Jackson had his 13-year-old son, Jordan. Horrific. Now, how this came about was that Jordan told his psychiatrist that Jackson had him, and then the LAPD began a criminal investigation. But the investigation actually found no physical evidence against Jackson, and it was closed. The case was closed less than 1 year later. Now, that should have stopped the media from reporting on it. Michael Jackson wasn't guilty, but we know the media has never let facts get in the way of them having a good time. They broke the allegations worldwide, which led Michael Jackson to cancel the second leg of his Dangerous World Tour in August of that same year. He cited health issues, health problems that were stemming from the stress of the entire scandal. And do you want to know what actually added to the stress? This is actually horrific. His sister, LaToya Jackson, came right out and she said, yup, Michael Jackson is a... But then something weird happened. She didn't provide any evidence. She didn't even attach that statement to a story. And when people prodded her about that, why did you say your brother is... She admitted that it was her husband who had forced her to make that statement.
When you compare it with Ice Cube's breakdown of how executives, media, and prisons intersect, the chaos suddenly looks organized. And inside that pattern, Michael stops being just an icon and becomes a threat to every powerful person who needs the system untouched. If you really want to see where things shifted between Michael and the media machine, you start with the night Oprah came to Neverland. It was advertised like a global therapy session. Oprah would ask the questions, and Michael would finally open up. But if you really pay attention to the conversation, it doesn't sound like a warm talk. It sounds like an interrogation wrapped in a smile.
There was a story, and I know one of your attorneys held a news conference. There was a story about you wanting to have a little white boy play you in a Pepsi commercial. That is so stupid. That's the most ridiculous, horrifying story I've ever heard. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, why? Number one, it's my face as a child in the commercial. Me when I was little. Mm-hmm. Why would I want a white child to play me? I'm a Black American. I'm proud to be a Black American. I am proud of my race. I am proud of who I am. I have a lot of pride in who I am and dignity. That's like you wanting an Oriental person to play you as a child. Does that make sense? No. So please, people, stop believing these horrifying then let's go to the thing that is most discussed about you, I think, is the fact that the color of your skin is obviously different than it was when you were younger.
Yes.
And so I think it has caused a great deal of speculation and controversy as to what you have done or are doing. Are you bleaching your skin? And is your skin lighter because you don't like being Black?
Okay, number one, There, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what
Well,
it
they
is.
used to have those products growing up. I used to hear always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons.
Okay, number one, this is the situation. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help. Okay, but when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts. So it is. It's a problem for me, okay? I can't control it, okay? But what about all the millions of people? Let's reverse it.
Okay.
What about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller, around Off the Wall Thriller. Sometime
And what did you think? I mean,
it's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private, but that's the situation here. So please, when people see something like that.
I just want to get this straight. You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin.
God, no.
You did not purposely.
We're trying to control it, and using makeup evens it out because it makes blotches on the skin, and I have to even out my skin. But you know what's funny? Why is that so important?
Did you catch how many times she drags the conversation back to gossip right when he tries to explain his condition or his past? She doesn't approach him as someone to understand. She treats him as a riddle that has to be cracked on live television. For millions watching at home, it was peak entertainment. For Michael, it was his entire identity being cross-examined. And if you see through Cube's lens of gatekeepers, Oprah isn't just asking questions, she's policing the narrative. Long after the cameras left Neverland, she was once again handed a microphone and a choice. Only this time, she wasn't in his home. She was on a set built specifically to amplify accusations against him. Once more, she stepped onto the side of the story that guaranteed ratings and outrage.
But for me, this moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person.
Oprah Winfrey opened up about her decision to speak to Michael Jackson's accusers for her After Neverland special when she stopped by The Daily Show on Wednesday night. Last month, Winfrey made headlines when she sat down with Michael Jackson accusers for Oprah Winfrey Presents After Neverland, which aired on HBO following the explosive documentary about the singer titled Leaving Neverland.
They ever found out what we were doing, he and I would go to jail.
Winfrey said of her decision to do the special, "I haven't had that much hateration since I did the puppy episode with Ellen DeGeneres, aka the episode in which DeGeneres came out as gay." The talk show host continued, "But when I saw that documentary, I realized that a lot of people are going to be triggered by watching it, and a lot of people will not understand what the pattern is." Winfrey explained, "People call it, but there is a big seducing that goes on, and that was important enough for me to take the hateration for."
This wasn't a nuanced debate. It was a sentencing disguised as a talk. There was no Michael, no real pushback, just a stage for one side of the story to be treated as the conclusion. And when some of those claims later fell apart under scrutiny, Oprah didn't rush to correct the record. If you're someone who believes Michael was a scapegoat for deeper rot in the industry, that doesn't look like reporting. It looks like guarding the system. What makes it worse is how she spoke about him after he died. The same woman who built a huge moment around their bond later acted like he was just another celebrity she interviewed.
Even though we're on a cruise, is watching all the newses and reading all the newspapers. And she said, "Something's happened to Michael. I don't think it's good." And it scared me because in 1998, I think that was the year, I was in another hotel room. Gail was in, and Gail called and said, "Something's happened to Princess Diana. I don't think it's good." So when I heard that, immediately I thought, oh my God, could it be? And so we were all stunned. And
did you consider going to either the memorial service or the funeral?
No, I did not consider going to the memorial service or the funeral because I did not consider myself to be a friend of his. And I didn't want to be one of those people showing up just because it's Michael Jackson. So no, I didn't, because I was not a friend. I was someone who had interviewed him and at the time really had a lot of compassion for him.
Mm-hmm.
And
those feelings about him changed over the years?
The feelings didn't change. In terms of my sense of compassion for him, what I felt was a sense of sadness. I never knew what the truth was.
She calmly explains that the connection people believed they had wasn't really there, at least not in her eyes. For someone who helped shape how the world saw Michael Jackson, that kind of revision is powerful. It rewrites the public memory. Stack that on top of the Leaving Neverland special, and you can see why so many fans say Oprah benefited more from backing away from Michael than standing up for him. And don't forget, this is the same Oprah who spent years smiling on carpets next to Harvey Weinstein and took her time addressing his behavior.
When some people think Oprah Winfrey, they think Harvey Weinstein because they have been linked together so often. First off, Oprah and Harvey have been friends for over 2 decades. A lot of people use the argument that she didn't know about what he was doing, but that's impossible because everyone's known about Harvey Weinstein's reputation ever since the 90s. If you guys don't know who Harvey Weinstein is, he is a major film producer who is pretty much the face of the Me Too movement because he was called out by a bunch of different actresses who he violated. When he was getting canceled and exposed for everything that he has done, Oprah allegedly called him and offered her support. Even though Oprah's team denies this, I believe it because Oprah has been close with Harvey and she has showed him some sympathy over time. Even though he is a disgusting man and he deserves to rot in jail. But I don't understand why Oprah wants to be best friends with someone like Harvey Weinstein. They had a very warm friendship, and the photos show. Some people actually believe that Oprah convinced some actresses to hook up with Harvey Weinstein. And actually, Rose McGowan tweeted out, "I'm glad more people are seeing the ugly truth of Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't."
So when you look at who she chose to stand beside and who she slowly stepped away from, a pattern starts to show up. Men like Harvey Weinstein enjoyed years of friendly coverage and quiet. Michael got a primetime special when he wasn't alive to respond. If you're trying to understand why she might have been uncomfortable with Michael keeping his halo in the public eye, this is where that idea of fear comes from. By now, you've seen how Michael challenged the machine and how Oprah chose to stand on the side that kept that machine safe. But there's one more piece, the people who chose not to play at all, which brings us right to the one guy who's been warning us about the club for years. Listen carefully to how he talks about this club and think about Diddy while you hear it.
Some of you may not have realized that I'm not part of the club. And a lot of you listening to me right here, right now, you're not part of the club either. And what I realized with the club is what makes them so mad is when you don't want to be a part of the club. That pisses them off. What club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with. You know who they are, and they definitely know who they are. A lot of people would be like, what? Who? Come on, man, stop playing.
He throws the Illuminati word around, but the joke is covering something real. What he's really describing is a circle. The people who always get invited, always get protected, as long as they stick to the script. The kind of circle where Diddy wasn't just a guest, he was one of the hosts. When he disowns that club, he's saying out loud that he walked away from the comfort that comes with staying silent. Now line that up with Michael, who started breaking their rules once he saw what that machine was doing to black artists. On one side, you've got Michael and Cube stepping away from the circle. On the other, Oprah and Diddy, whose empires were built right in the middle of it. If somebody ever sat down and pulled the curtain back on that club with real receipts, whose legacy would be at risk? So when people say Oprah and Diddy feared Michael Jackson, they're not talking about him as a boogeyman. They're talking about a man who saw the machine from the inside, survived it, and then started pointing at it in public. Someone whose words could cut through years of PR spin, talk show narratives, and polished documentaries in one interview. If Michael had ever decided to sit down and tell everything he knew about labels, about media, about parties and power, he could have set that whole club on fire. And maybe that's the real fear. Not that Michael Jackson was dangerous to children, but that he was dangerous to the people who profit from controlling the story. So, now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Oprah and Diddy kept their distance from Michael in the end because they believed the allegations, or because they knew how much he'd seen behind closed doors? If Cube is telling the truth about this club running everything, how many more celebrities do you think are silently hoping the truth never fully surfaces?